How are you guys? Monday, May 2nd, and we're going to be discussing a few topics, one of which is another food plant catches fire in Virginia amid wave of destroyed food facilities. This would be number 3 in the latest days. And this one, let's see here, it says another food processing facility has caught fire in Chesapeake, Virginia on Saturday amid a spate of mysterious food accidents taking place across America. We talked about this several times from last year to this year. Coast to coast, food, meat, chips, soda, it's just about everything. On top of all of that, they're also destroying millions and millions of chickens. We're talking chickens, geese, turkeys, and that number continues to go up. In the article here, it says the latest incident took place at the Purdue Farms grain processing facility where a soybean tank was found ablaze by plant workers, and the fire was then put out just before 9 o'clock that night. Now, it does say that it was a soybean facility. Now, that's going to impact grains and animal feed. So on top of the already high raising prices for not only our food that we see on the shelves at the stores, but meat as well. Hey, Rob, how are you? Hey, Clint. Yeah, I know, crazy times. But again, we keep talking about a lot of this being brushed underneath the rug so quickly. And that is, look, it's a fire. They put it out. No big deal. No one got hurt. So they always emphasize the fact that no one got hurt in these fires. But what they're not emphasizing is that you have people out of work now. You have foods that are being processed. You have animals that are not going to be fed. And that's going to compound everything else that we're going to talk about. Like in this next article, from BlackRock and Vanguard are taking over centralized food production technologies and will have near total control over the future of food supply in America. I didn't realize the reach was this great until I read this article. And this comes from Natural News. Now in here it says that the world's top 10 food companies are also largely owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. These include Nestle, PepsiCo, General Mills, Kellogg's, Associated British Foods, Mondelez, Mars, Danone, Unilever, and Coca-Cola. I didn't know that. I thought they were all independently owned. I was corrected. Now, in this article here continues, what happens when they control all of the seeds, produce, and meat too? What happens when produce and meat are all grown inside secured facilities after a gene splice or inside a petri dish? And farmland becomes dormant due to overreaching regulations, lack of supplies, and manufactured inflation. And on top of all of that, when they mention the farmlands becoming dormant, China and others are buying up our farmland. There are some states that are trying to fight back against this, but so far, a lot of our farmland is being sold. And on top of that, Bill Gates owns land from one owner, and they're not doing anything with it. A lot of these farmlands are being purchased by not only China, but other countries. They're buying it and they're just sitting on it. They're not producing anything on that farmland. So on top of the food shortages and the fires and explosions at these plants, you have farmland sitting dormant. So it's not just a hypothetical, this is actually happening right now. Inside the article, it does continue. This will directly impact key agricultural areas such as Iowa, Illinois, Kansas, Nebraska, Texas, and California. This will ultimately affect food supply and pricing. Now, in this, in bold letters, says BlackRock CEO Larry Fink says, quote, it's time to force people's behavior to change. And how else are you going to do that besides food? A lot of other things you can change. We can make adaptations, but we all need to eat on a daily basis. So what do you do at that point? And that's why I can't stress enough, as well as other people, to grow your own food and start your own gardens. So let's continue with the third article, because this one's pretty important. Now it talks about, we've covered the food manufacturing plants catching fire or exploding and having their own fair share of issues. Now let's talk about weather. Argentina freezes. In here it says that checking in with South America, a region of the world crucial for the season's grain crops, with Ukraine offline essentially, and Russia not exporting. U.S. is suffering extensive planting delays because of the cold weather. Argentina, like Southeast Asia, is also suffering an intense cold spell. Hard frosts were observed in southern and central areas of Argentina on May 1st. As a result, a myriad of new monthly low records have been broken yet again. The snow has been impressive, with a lot of pictures on Twitter coming out. Now it says here that 40 inches of snow struck just west of Patagonia at the end of April, and Argentina's freeze is further bad news for the nation's crops, particularly corn, which in early May is at a crucial stage of growth. We talked about this several times before in the past, where corn, they've had their fair share of issues. Now we're going on year 3 of at least reported issues of corn, where it's either stunted by drought or cold weather damage, and it's going to continue to be with this pattern. Looking ahead, the polar cold is forecast to continue its march up South American continent over the next few days this week, and is expected to southern Brazil by Wednesday. Now, the best thing we can do right now is continue to store food, and as some people have said several times, store it to the rafters, and I too am now on that bandwagon to say keep storing, but not just store it, but really store it, guys. Mylar bags, canning supplies. Keep busy. Like right now, my dehydrator is with potatoes, and I have this that we're actually almost done. We could probably bag this in the next few hours when it cools, and we're going to continue to do so. Last week was peas. Peas I would definitely recommend. It's affordable and it's a great content of protein. So if you want a good protein source, peas. It's affordable, it's sweet, and a great source of protein. So definitely run the peas through the dehydrator. Potatoes, it too has protein and vitamins and minerals and good mineral content. And anything else you can get in there. Definitely have a nice variety of foods, fruits, vegetables. Keep that thing running. I know I am. So let's now talk about here in America. Snow, rain, and cold keeps U.S. farmers from planting corn. So we too are having our own issues of corn. Late season snow, heavy rains, and record cold are resulting in mounting planting delays across the U.S. and Canada. Quote, "It's just too cold for corn," said Iowa farmer Kelly, who farms 3,000 acres in O'Brien County. Nationally, the planting pace is dragging, with only 7% of corn acreage and 3% of soybeans planted through April 24th, less than half of the acres planted at this time last year, reported the USDA. Focusing on Iowa, America's largest corn grower, this year seeing the state's slowest pace since 2013. So again, if you can freeze it, can it, dehydrate it, bag it, definitely do so. Farmers are already complaining about fertilizer prices, which have jumped 300%, and that's actually higher than that, or more, due to supply chain concerns. In addition, the U.S. has imposed trade sanctions on Russia. So again, a lot of the exports aren't coming out. A lot of what they're trying to grow is not being planted. Same along South America and North America. Many continents being hit by record cold that's persisting. And the best thing we can do is grow it, can it, dehydrate it, store it, or ferment it. We're going to be working on future projects when it comes to fermenting and making food stretch. Think about how people survived without electricity during the cold months, especially in colder climates. They would can it, dehydrate it, smoke it, and ferment it. They would ferment as many things as they could: beer, wine, fruits, vegetables. The lactic acid fermentation process is phenomenal. And it's not just long lasting for your food, but it's great for your gut health. So that's something to keep in mind when it comes to putting away food. So YouTube, thank you guys for stopping in. If you want to come over to DLive, we'll talk more there. But next week, we will talk more projects and working outside in the garden. So you guys be safe and well. I will talk to you all later. All right, DLive.